A biblical perspective on life, culture, and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Well, today we're going to talk about having conversations with people about God, and there's nothing better to discuss this than Russ Matthews. He works for City Bible Forum as a product manager for Real Dialogue, God in 60 Seconds, and Third Space. And all of these works exist to start conversations and communities that discuss faith and God throughout the cities of Australia. And Russ Matthews, I want to welcome you to 2020 today.
Andrew, this is great. I love having these conversations, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about the Dive Deeper campaign.
Well, we are living in a lost and a dying world, Russ, and not only are people spiritually lost and dying, it just feels like people are dying emotionally, physically, financially. The world seems to be beset by problems. There's probably no greater time in Australia's history to be sharing the gospel than now.
Yeah, it is. It's a great time. Because, you know, what's interesting about kind of some of the statistics here in Australia specifically is that most people want to have conversations. And they say about 56% of people want to have conversations about deeper things, specifically spiritual things. And so it gives us a kind of room to be able to kind of talk about that with our friends, families, neighbors, those and work colleagues to be able to kind of have those conversations. And so that's what we really try to encourage with the Dive Deeper campaign in September, is just encouraging to have those conversations, getting it started, and we also hopefully be able to equip you along the way.
Yeah, so it's called Dive Deeper, but it doesn't really require a deep dive from those of us who get involved in this. It's something as simple as just striking up a conversation. Can you just talk us through how you equip people?
Yeah, sure. Well, so with the Dive Deeper campaign, one of the things we strive to do is not just tell people to go have 3 conversations with 3 people in 3 weeks. I mean, that sounds like a pretty simple thing, but to be honest, a lot of people really do struggle to kind of include their faith in conversations. And so what we want to do is not only encourage people to do it, but we also equip them to do it. And so with the Dive Deeper campaign, which is divedeeper.org.au, and on there, what you can do is you can actually go through and take a little bit of a quiz, kind of find out what type of person you are when it comes to sharing your faith. And it can be either hesitant or busy or an enthusiast, and kind of looking at the different types of person you are. But then within that, once you kind of have the category that you sit in, then from there, we actually have resources for you to be able to start conversations. So like with God in 60 Seconds, or just kind of opening the conversation starters, and then just kind of helping you to see it's actually not too hard. But also, this goes back to the thing you said before, which I really do find important, is that it's not that hard to start the conversation. I think, unfortunately, what some people think when they're thinking evangelism is, I've got to get every point of the gospel in this conversation. I've got to get every single part. And what we really try and show you is that, no, it's just getting the conversation started and really kind of helping people to kind of move down that track, and talking about the Bible and about Jesus isn't too hard as far as getting it started, and then just kind of continuing on and not only building into the conversation, but also hopefully the relationship that you have with this person.
Yeah, there's many lies the devil tells us, Russ, to stop us from doing things for God. And I think in the context of evangelism, one of the lies is, oh, you don't know enough, you haven't been to Bible college, what if you get asked a hard question? Many Christians have this inner dialogue. It's a personal objection that they need to overcome. How do you help people overcome this objection, Russ?
Yeah, and I think that's where we really kind of help people get started, is showing that the thing is that if they've been a part of a good Bible-believing church for any length of time, even at the beginning stages of their Christian faith, they really are equipped, because the vast majority of questions aren't that much different than what people have been asking over the past, the millennia, as far as what really people want to know and really what they want to be able to talk to. And even all you have to do is just look at the news and kind of go, oh, look what all's happening in the news. But if you think about it, opposed to being despairing, we can look at it hopefully and be able to even include a hopeful message from each one of the different stories that we have, that we get in the media, as far as with it comes to the economy, or if it kind of comes down to sport even, or with the politics that are going on. And so what we really want to do is try to help people to see it's just a matter of just kind of saying, hey, what do you think about it? Leaving it open and really giving the opportunity of hearing what other people are doing. And I think that's one of the big things, Andrew. I think one of the key elements of evangelism is, I think that most people think it's talking. but really it's listening, and it's effective listening, and really stopping ourselves from actually trying to answer everything, and opposed to allowing that person to kind of talk, hearing and really listening to what they have to say, opposed to having set answers for them, and really be able to listen to what they're going through and what they want to know, and then answering the questions where they are. And so building in again to that relationship as well as the conversation, and moving people closer to knowing Jesus.
I'm so glad you said that, because I mean, pivoting away from evangelism, if someone works in sales, there's also this this thought that people have in sales: you've got to talk a lot, you've got to sell, you've got to dominate the conversation. But the truth is, Rush, really good salespeople also are great listeners. They ask questions, they listen to the answers, and they respond. And evangelism, I believe, is exactly the same. It's, look at Jesus. He observed the world around him. He listened to people. He went into their homes. He connected with them. And I think he would have conversed with a lot of different people. We see him very competent talking to, the woman at the well with a soiled reputation, to religious leaders and political leaders. And I'm just so glad you said that. It is. It's not about knowing everything, is it? It's simply about asking questions and listening.
That's it. Well, and I think it goes to, because also one thing to clarify is we're not selling the gospel. I was in marketing and sales for years, and I think sometimes we think there's a lot of similar skills, but really there is, and that's where some of the brilliant aspects are, that it is a matter of listening and ensuring that we are listening and asking the right question and just allowing people to kind of go. It's amazing how much people will share if we just kind of give them the opportunity to be able to do that. But then also where we're not having to answer everything. Actually, one of the things I find, if you want to, I use all the time, even though I have a Bible degree and I preach regularly, there are questions I don't necessarily have the answers to. And so it's okay to be human and say, hey, you know what, I don't know. But hey, how about if we get together for a coffee next week and I'll find that answer for you and we can kind of dig into it a little bit deeper. And it just gives an opportunity to kind of take that next step, because I think that that's another thing that we really strive to do, is just kind of help people to move to the next step in the conversation, opposed to it always being, I've got to get to all of the Romans road throughout this whole thing, or I have to do all of 2 ways to live, which aren't bad things. It's just sometimes you can't get that all in one conversation, but you can get a conversation started and move it towards the gospel probably pretty easily if you just kind of take a moment to be able to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so well put. And I mean, I've got a personal story, Russ. When I first became a Christian, I was trying to convert all my friends, as you do, and you're really bad at it, but you're trying, and you're so zealous. And I was always trying to have all the answers. And I remember one day a friend said to me, "Oh, why don't you just buy a lotto ticket, and when you win the lotto, you can give all the money to missions and become a full-time missionary." And he goes, "Why can't you do that?" And I said, "You know what? I don't know." I said, "I don't think that's going to work, but I actually don't know the answer." And you know what he said to me, Russ? He said, "You know what, mate? I'm so glad you didn't know the answer, because since you've become a Christian, you've always got the answers, and it feels like you're in some sort of cult or something, that they've taught you how to respond to my questions." And he was encouraged by the fact that I didn't actually know something. And again, I was working under that myth that I had to know everything, and that's why I was coming across as such a know-it-all. But you see, I think you're right. I don't think deep down people expect us to know everything, and if we're cool with that, God can still use us, can't he?
He can. I mean, we're humans, they're human, and actually to be able to kind of talk in and kind of go into that. Also, I think, unfortunately, sometimes people think, oh, no, I got that question, so I need to put my pastor on speed dial. And you're going, well, the thing is, Andrew, I think that's one of the things we really strive to show people, is that where you're sitting is your mission field. Where if the Lord puts you in a specific workplace or a specific school or a specific atmosphere or a specific neighborhood, that is the mission field, because the Lord has placed you with a whole bunch of people who mostly don't know Jesus yet, but you're the person to be able to introduce them to that. And also to be able to show that it doesn't have to be some weird, bizarre thing. It's not like something, because with City Bible Forum, we work in workplaces and really kind of help people with how you do evangelism in the workplace specifically. But that doesn't mean having tracts on your desk and we're wearing big crosses around your neck. If that's what you want to do, if that's your style, that's not a big deal. But it's really just kind of building into relationships and talking to people where they are. I go into stories. Probably one of my favorite stories was when I was in sales, was a guy who didn't get on really well in the workplace, and I couldn't tell you why. It was just personality conflict or something. But then one day I found out that his mother had passed away. And we were on the road, and I put it on speed dial. And I was like, hey, mate, do you mind? I didn't say mate because I was in the States at the time. But I did say, hey, I was wondering, would you be okay? I know I'm probably the last person that you want to hear from right now, but I heard about your mother passing away. And I want to see if I could have the opportunity just to pray for you. We're on the road. You're heading off to your account. I'm heading off to my account. And he's like going, wow, really? You don't want to do that? He said, yeah, I would love for you to pray for me. And it was amazing. From that point on, we became fast friends. And it was fascinating just to kind of see him grow in not only our relationship, but also a willingness to talk more and more about God along those lines. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to be able to grow where we're planted. I think sometimes we think we got to go do missions overseas, and that's where we do evangelism, when actually, no, it's right where you are, seeing where the opportunities where you are. And that's what we really strive to do, not only with the Dive Deeper campaign, but also with what we do with City Bible Forum and Third Space. Yeah,
I love that. And just the human heart. Like, obviously you touched his heart by offering to pray. And I think this is the takeaway too, Russ, about personal evangelism, is that we're not trying to intellectually convert anyone, because you can't, but we're trying to encourage hearts to draw near to God. And sometimes it takes a very simple message or a very simple action like your action there, just to offer for a prayer or an act of kindness or love, or just showing an interest in someone, that can actually draw a human heart to Jesus.
That's right. Sometimes the fastest way to the heart is through a wound. And so I find that that's really just a great opportunity for us to be able to do that. And also, you're there. I mean, I think about the workplace. I mean, we when we walk through the streets of the cities that we live in, a lot of time I'll point at a building. I go, hey, look, there's more people in that building right now than there are in most small towns around Australia. So the fact that they're placed there, they're sitting at a desk, they've got 10 people sitting around them at any given moment, and probably they're the only Christian sitting in there. You say, well, you're the salt and the light. What are you going to do with that? You still have to do your work well, but it's also an opportunity to reach out to those who are around you. And so, it's something we've been doing for so long that it becomes second nature. But I think that for most people, it's something that we really can do. And actually, you speak into the language, because I can't walk into an office at a bank and know the language of that culture as well as the person who's actually worked there for years. And so why wouldn't I help to train them to be able to speak into that culture better than I do?
Yeah. I love it, Russ. You're multiplying your efforts, you're multiplying your energy, you're multiplying revelation, and equipping the saints for the work of evangelism. It's so good. Now, if people want to find out more about this, it's called Dive Deeper, and that's divedeeper.org.au. That's divedeeper.org.au. Russ, I want to thank you so much for, number one, being a missionary to Australia from the state of Iowa, good farming country there, and you've been here down under for 18, 19 years, and I know you're doing a great work for God here, and I want to thank you for coming to Australia, firstly as an Aussie, but also thank you so much for joining us on 2020 Today.
Absolutely love it. And I love it. Definitely reach out to us if you want to find out more about Dive Deeper. But Andrew, I love being here. Anytime being on Vision is always a great time. So thanks so much for being a partner in the ministry and seeing how we can get the message of the gospel out to Australia.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.